Let me share with you 3 of my best all-time driver videos. You know, driving doesn't have to be that complicated, especially when you get some of the secrets that I'm going to share with you here. Let's go and get started. Hey guys, absolutely awesome to have you here today. In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between a weight shift, some misconceptions that people can have that can really destroy your game, versus a hip turn. There's kind of 2 different methodologies in golf. A lot of people will tell you we need to shift our weight to the right and then back to the left. And then a lot of people will say, no, we just need to keep it in the middle, keep everything very centered, turn back, turn through, and that way we eliminate the weight shift and some inconsistency. Well, in reality, both of those aren't quite right. And there's a couple of big traps that you can fall into if you buy into just one methodology versus another. But when you blend them both together, that's what the best players in the world are doing. And I got some great tips for you, some great tricks on how to get this exactly the way you want to get it in your game. And then at the end, some awesome drills to take action. And it's great to know what to do, but we're going to also talk about exactly how to do it. Let's go and get started. All right, so first let's go from the weight shift methodology. And a lot of times, this is exactly correct. If you look at any pro golfer and you put, they have the nice ability to use force plates these days. And if you look at force plates, which basically just reads where the pressure is in your feet, how much weight you have on each foot, how much pressure each foot is putting, every single pro golfer is going to shift their weight to their right foot, put more pressure into the right foot on the backswing, then shift their weight to the left, put more pressure to their weight on the downswing on the left side. Every single player, there's not a player in the world that keeps their weight centered. It just doesn't happen. We have to be able to shift our weight to the right and then back to the left to get some good power. Same thing if you're throwing a baseball. I'm going to shift my weight to the right, lift my left foot, and then I'm going to go forward. If you're throwing a football, if you're throwing a javelin, if you're hitting a baseball, that's why it's, as you take that step, it's all on your right side. In almost any sport where you're trying to get power, that weight goes to your back foot and then transfers to the front foot. So that has to happen in reality. Now, one of the misconceptions with this, what if we're thinking of the weight shift to the right and we hear people talk about constantly, get that weight to the right, and now all of a sudden we think of that as just being straight linear this way, so straight going to the right, and a lot of times we'll slide. When you do that, your right hip gets way outside your right foot. So you can see how now the middle of my right hip is outside of my right ankle, and I've really just slid this way. Now the problem with this is your eyes determine your hand-eye coordination. So if I start to slide to the right, watch what happens to my eyes. They slide to the right too. To counterbalance that, because we're all pretty good athletes, we say, okay, I can't get this and have my eyes slide, or I can't even hit the golf ball at all. So I'm going to keep my eyes still, and I'm going to slide, and now you get this reverse pivot. So one of those 2 things is happening. If I try to put that to the test, I can barely even swing doing that. I did the same. I topped the ball, just cold topped it, hit it right in the water, lost my golf ball. But the problem with that is, as I slide, I just lose focus of where the ball is, and there's almost no way for me to get enough hand-eye coordination to really hit that ball consistently. So when I look at my swing speed there, a whopping 88.8 miles an hour. It said, it read when it bounced off the ground and carried 30-something yards. It says it carried 35 yards on my flight scope. But obviously, when I'm sliding around, number one, I can't get power, because when I'm in this position, this is not a powerful position to hit from. And number 2, as my eyes start to move, I lose focus of where the ball is. So even for me personally, I could not break 100 if my eyes were shifting that far off the ball. I just wouldn't be able to time it up well enough. So let's go ahead and talk about what is the proper way to shift your weight to the right and then back to the left in the swing. And then we'll get to the rotation portion of this. So the proper way to do this, you're going to have a weight shift to the right early in the backswing. So when my arm is about parallel to the ground, this is about as far to the right as I'm going to shift. I'll feel some weight on the inside of my right leg. I'll see that my right femur is angled in though. In the first one I shifted, my upper leg got angled out that way. So my femur upper leg is this way, my hip is outside my ankle. If my hip stays inside my ankle, I've gotten that weight shift to the right. I feel like I'm going to load up like I'm throwing a baseball. Or my favorite is, I feel like I'm loading up doing a shot put. I'm bending that right leg and then I'm going to come on through. But the key there is, I have to keep that angled in. That's going to allow me to rotate in place but still get that shift. If you can imagine 12 o'clock on a clock face, 6 o'clock being directly behind you, I'm gonna push out toward 130, which would be this direction. If my foot pushes out, that's gonna push this hip in the opposite direction. As that femur's angled out, now my leg is lined up in a way that I can actually make that happen. Another great way to visualize this is, imagine there's a person standing behind you at 730. He has a rope or a string tied to your hip pocket or your belt loop here, and he's gonna pull that as you shift your weight to the right. Now you're staying a little bit centered, you're not sliding off the ball, you're getting that weight shift, and everything is angled in here. So my backswing, those are the keys. I'm feeling like I'm going to the right, but my leg is angled inward slightly. I'm pushing into the ground to get those hips to rotate as I'm doing that. Now we can turn around and do the same thing for a weight shift to the left. Before we get to the weight shift to the left, let's go ahead and rip one with the correct weight shift to the right. Last time I was 88 miles an hour and topped one in the water. I bet you I'll do a little better than that with the proper weight shift. There we go, hit that one well. Right down the middle, maybe just a fraction off the toe, but that was hammered pretty good. Let's see what the flight scope says for me. Swing speed was 116.5. It didn't get the first one. Instead of 36-yard carry, I bumped it up to 297, so that's quite a bit better. And that one rolled out pretty well, 347 total distance. So I got a nice bit of roll, hit that nice and solid. And that correct weight shift really helped me to get a lot more powerful. If I'm sliding and I'm in this position, there's just no way to be powerful. You know, you wouldn't feel like, oh, I could throw a baseball and do that. You got to feel like you get loaded into that leg, then go forward. Same thing happens in the through swing. This is the cool thing about the golf swing. We talked about my right leg being angled in, pushing out toward 130 in the backswing. Same thing happens in the downswing. All I do is I shift my weight to the left. My left leg gets angled out to what would be 10:30 on the clock, 12 o'clock here, 10:30 is over there. My left leg's angled there. It has some bend in it. And then as I come on through, that straightens up and that pushes my hip back this way. Or you could imagine that same thing. There's a guy standing back here. He's got a string tied to my belt loop. And as I push into the ground, he's pulling that to clear it out of the way. And that gets me to rotate to the left. So my weight is shifting to the left, but it's not sliding. If I was to slide the incorrect way, so if I was to just go ahead and slide forward, never feel like, again, like linear. I'm imagining sliding to the right, sliding to the left. That would be weight shift right, weight shift left, the incorrect way. If I do that, now I have to get all hands and arms. You'll see my left hip is now outside my left ankle. My femur is angled the wrong way, and now I can't rotate on through there, and it's just a slide and an arm hit, and I'm gonna lose a lot of distance as I'm doing that. I'll go ahead and try to do that out, or try that out here. And I hit that one. I swung as hard as I could, and I hit it really solid. Went a little bit to the right, but I couldn't have hit it any better with that type of body motion. My last drive was 297 carry. That one went down to 250, 108 club head speed, 279 total distance. And a lot of times, we're actually better athletes than we realize we are. We actually can hit it another 20 or 30 yards farther. Maybe you're the guy that's hitting at 270 that has the potential to hit it 340, but you just didn't have the right technique. You didn't get that leg turned out to where you can rotate on through there. So that's the problem with sliding either way. You're gonna cut out your distance, you're gonna cut out your consistency, you're gonna have to use more arms and hands to time it up, and you're really gonna struggle. Now the other end of this spectrum is, we talked about the right way to make the weight shift and the turn at the same time. What about the guys that say, okay, I'm gonna stay pretty centered here, and I'm gonna rotate. So I'm gonna imagine almost like that string tied to your belt loop is directly behind you. I'm gonna rotate there, and then in the downswing, I'm gonna rotate the other way, and I'm gonna stay pretty centered over this golf ball. It sounds really cool, and the great thing about this type of swing is that now my eyes are fairly centered, and I'm not gonna move around very much. Well, there's two problems with that. Number one, as we talked about before, every single pro player out there, due to there's tons of force graphs on these force plates showing that they get their weight shift to the right and the weight shift to the left. Plus, it's just not going to be very powerful. If I don't transfer my weight, now I don't have anything shifting to the left. I don't have anything to push against to rotate out of the way. I'm kind of just trying to slide on my own body weight. It's almost like if you're standing on a piece of ice, a frozen lake, and I'm trying to swing. Well, by trying to stay still, very difficult to do that. I have to have some kind of weight shift to stay stable. If I try to hit one now, the idea of staying very centered, so I'm not going to go to the right at all. I'm going to stay here and then stay there, and I can try that out. I'm not going to get as much power or distance. Now that looked like a good swing. I hit it right down the middle. Didn't hit it quite as solid as the ones before, but I lost a lot of distance because I couldn't load up and get power from the ground. I kind of had to feel like I was staying still as I was doing that. Now that wouldn't be bad. Most people would say that's a lot of speed. I swung 114, my total distance was 286. Most people would be very happy with that, but again, there's more in the tank. Maybe you're the guy hitting at 286 that could hit it over 300 yards if we got that proper weight shift. All right, so now what do we do with this? It's great, Clay. We had this big long video talking about the details of weight shift and turn and why we can't just turn or we can't just shift. Now, what do we do to actually get this in our game? And this is the point that's going to separate the people that are going to improve and get better from the players that are going to fairly stay about the same. The players that are going to improve are going to put this to action. We're going to do all the reps, we're going to practice, and that's going to get you those long-term results. So what I want you to do here, let's go ahead and set up, put a club across your shoulders, and for the first little bit here, we're just working on our body movements. As I go to the backswing, weight shifts to the right, but again, leg stays angled out. I feel like my weight's on the inside of my right foot. And then as I come down, my weight shifts to the left. My left leg is angled out. And then as I turn up, you'll see that my chest is nice and high. I've finished good and tall. My left leg is straight and I've rotated all the way on through. I want you to do about 50 reps. Go back, left, and then through. Nice and slow, check your legs. Check where your weight shift is going. If you have a mirror, a video camera, check yourself, make sure it looks like you're doing these moves correctly. Number two, another 50 reps. Let's go ahead and put this into a fluid swing. Same checkpoints here. Weight shifts to the right. Imagine that guy's pulling that rope this way as you shift to the right. That's going to get you loaded up without sliding. Number two, let's have that same guy pull the rope this way. My left leg's angled out, and then I come all the way on through. So we're going to make a fluid swing doing that. Nice and smooth. You don't have to go really hard doing this. Let's do another 50 reps. Once you're comfortable with those, let's take it to the driving range and let's make sure that we do at least 2 practice swings before every full swing. Then go ahead and give it a real rip. All right, what a cool driving range, a cool course we're at here. This is Orange County National, home of America's largest driving range. This thing is pretty neat. It's over 400 yards across this with tee boxes all the way around. Really cool courses. They hold the Q School for the Corn Ferry Tour to get your PGA Tour card here this year. So really cool spot. Thought it'd be really fun to come out and shoot a video here. Well, in this one, I'm gonna talk about how you can shallow out your swing so that you stop coming down steep and how that can really help you to unlock a lot of swing speed that you have built up inside. Now, what happens a lot of times, let me go ahead and tee up one more ball here. You'll see that if you're getting a little bit steep, it's usually a right arm wanting to push that club and accelerate the club. And early in the downswing, you're gonna see this club shaft is pointing well inside the golf ball. So if you look at where that's pointing, if I just kept swinging down that direction, I would slam this club into the ground 2-3 feet behind the golf ball. Obviously, that's not gonna work. So when this right arm gets overactive or active in the wrong way, we're gonna go over the right way here in a second. When it gets overactive in the wrong way, I have to slow down my swing, reroute this club shaft to get it kind of shallowed out. I usually stand up and flip to kind of help that action happen, and you lose a lot of swing speed. All that slowing down to reroute the club could have been acceleration if you're already in the slot, just accelerating all the way through the golf ball. That's what we're gonna go over in this video. Now, one of the biggest things that I see players struggle with And they'll ask me, Clay, you know, I get that you're supposed to be shallowing this club out. I get that the logo of your left hand is toward the sky, that I want to kind of roll this arm in, but I just can't feel anything with my left hand. I don't feel comfortable doing that. That's why in this video, we're going to focus all in on the right hand. What does the right hand do? And I found that you're probably going to have a lot more success focusing on the right hand versus the left hand. Then you can kind of blend it all in together, and it's going to feel natural here after a while. So what I mentioned there and what happens when you're coming a little bit steep is typically in the takeaway, you're going to bring the club inside, and then the right hand is going to push that club into a steeper position here. Now, it doesn't mean that you're coming over the top. You may be steep and still coming from the inside, just standing up like that. That can be happening. It doesn't mean that you have an over-the-top slice. You may have an over-the-top slice, or you may even have a hook doing this. What we're talking about here is the steepness of the shaft. That's when that club comes back a little inside, the right hand pushes the shaft steeper, and then from there we reroute. We want to reverse that. So go ahead and drop the club and just take your right hand. Now to dress, if I take it inside, my right wrist is bending back. These knuckles of my right wrist are bending back. That's called wrist extension. That's your knuckles towards your elbow. I want to feel like my right wrist is pretty flat as I'm going into the backswing. So I'm going to do a few reps feeling like it's flat, and then going ahead and making my swing. Now you can do these right from your living room. Go ahead and make a good 10 or 15 swings, just focusing on that. We're gonna build this in a progression, layer by layer. I don't wanna go ahead and do everything all at once. We gotta make a few swings to get comfortable with this. So here, I'm just gonna focus in on my right wrist being flat in the first part of the backswing. I'm gonna do that by turning my body and letting that move the club versus me picking it up with my hands and wrists and dragging it to the inside. So I'm gonna do 10 or 15 practice swings like that, and then I'll go ahead and hit a golf ball here. There we go, another one, nice and solid. That would be down the left center of the fairway there, so good swing. So do the practice swings, then go ahead, if you're at a driving range, hit a few balls doing that. If you're at home, just do the practice swings and you'll be well on your way when you go to the driving range. Now piece number 2, let's add to that now. Go through this progression. My right wrist is flat going back, and you can kind of see that would be kind of flat, or like I was shaking someone's hand here. As I start down, here's what I want you to feel, and this is exaggerated, but this is really key to shallowing it out. I want you to feel like as your body opens, your palm is toward the sky. So that's really going to take this club from here to there in the downswing. Now that's exaggerated. That's too much. You're not going to get that shallow, and I don't want you to, but that's the feeling you're going to have as you finish the backswing and start the downswing to really get that club to move in the proper way. Now from there, I'm going to do another 10 or 15 practice swings, and that's really going to help me to come more from this way. Now the mistake that I think a lot of people assume is that if I get this club more from the inside, that means I'm going to swing way out to the right, and that's simply not the case. My hand is opening up, and then I'm going to be releasing that to square up the face. Once my palm opens, that's in a good shallow inside position, and now I'm going to release it. This is what all the great pros are doing that I see a lot of players that struggle don't do. They're taking this club from the inside and then releasing that to square it up. So my palm goes from open here to square, releasing through the target, and then coming on through. If you're looking at it from the camera angle here, my palm's going from open to going ahead and releasing to square and then coming on through. So I'm going to do a good 10 to 15 reps of that. Let's go ahead and hit another golf ball here, and notice how that club definitely shallows out in the transition. And I'm coming from the inside, but I'm not hitting a massive hook or really swinging way out to the right. I'm swinging squarely through the ball because I'm releasing that hand. Let's go ahead and try it out here. There we go, pretty solid. Now over the years, I've learned a few tricks that are going to allow you to make golf easy. It's going to make it easy to hit that nice draw. It's going to make it easy to get that ball that feels really solid on the face. And it's going to make it easy to look up and see your ball going down the fairway a lot faster than you thought you could before. Now, let me share with you some of these tricks that are going to make it the best and most easy way for you to play great golf, no matter how flexible you are, no matter how strong you are, any of that. Now, piece number 1, I want to line up a little bit to the right. Now here, if I'm going down the fairway, if I line up straight, most of the time, you're probably going to find yourself getting a little steep in the downswing, and your tendency is going to swing a little to the left. Now when you do that, when you get a little steep and getting that club coming right to left across the golf ball, it adds spin and it gets that ball to want to cut on your mishits, and that kills the distance. What I want you to do is to actually line up to the right when you set up here. So think about if this is square, and I'll just throw a alignment stick down here. Let's say that this is square down the middle of the fairway. I'm going to line up about 10 or 15 yards to the right of that, kind of down the right edge of the fairway. Now what that's going to do is that's going to preset you in a position to where now you know you need to go ahead and release that club to get the face to turn on over and get that draw, because you can just see that I'm lined up down the right side of the fairway. I want to get that draw type shot shape, and that's going to help the ball to decrease the spin, turn over from right to left, and get an easy amount of distance. Now, number two, to make this a lot easier, instead of having the normal kind of stock grip where you can see a couple knuckles on the left hand, I want you to go ahead and make your left hand stronger or more turned to the right. Let's go ahead and see about 3 knuckles there. Now you say, well, Clay, that's not the right way to grip it. Well, let me tell you something. There's been a lot of majors won with players that have a strong grip. Dustin Johnson just won a major not too long ago, the Masters, with a strong grip, #1 player in the world. You know, I think you'll be okay if you have a little bit of this kind of look when you're setting up to it. Now, you also want to get the right hand. I don't want to turn the right hand where the palm is on top of the grip. That's going to get my right shoulder high, and that's going to get me, again, wanting to slice it. I want to feel like my right shoulder is under, promoting more of a draw. And I'm going to feel like the palm of my right hand is more under the grip there too. Again, getting under this club and lining up to the right is going to help me to swing from the inside, release that golf club, and get it turning over. A lot of easy speed, get that ball rolling a long way, all those good things that we want. So I've got my setup to the right. I've got my grip on my left hand and my right hand better. I've got my shoulder kind of tucked under and back, so it's kind of behind me here a little bit. It's lower than my left shoulder. That's really got me in a position to where I'm going to hit this big swinging power draw that's going to go a lot farther than it should, to be honest with you. And let's go ahead and try it out here. All right, I mean that ball took off. It was nice and solid. It feels like no matter what I do, that ball is going to turn over from right to left. I'm just set up in a way that's automatically going to happen. Now, one thing that I see when a lot of players do this, and basically all players do this, and I guarantee you this is happening in your swing, is you find yourself getting a little too narrow, meaning that this left arm breaks down, it bends a little bit, these hands get close to your body, and you find yourself kind of throwing the hands and arms at the golf ball, and it just kills your swing speed. So even if you get this ball turning over from right to left and you hit it solid and all the spins off of it so it's going to roll, it just doesn't have as much pop as it should on it. Now, there's a great video that I have for you that's going to help you to get that extra pop back. I call it the pirate ship drill. And what I do on that video is I go over the structure of those amusement park rides. So you have this, this kind of big structure in the middle, and it's got an arm that sticks out, and then there's a pirate ship with the people on them, and it kind of swings back and forth like that. And once you start to think of your body as that pirate ship ride, it's amazing how much better your arm structure will get. And I'll go over it in great detail for you here in just one second. I'm going to play a preview of that video, and all you need to do to see the full video is go ahead and click the card that pops up on your screen. Now, if you can get that ball turning over right to left, and you can get your arm structure nice and wide so you can get tons of lag and tons of speed through there like you're seeing all the top pros doing, it's pretty daggone fun to play golf, I'm not going to lie. You're going to hit the ball really well when you do that. So check out that pirate ship drill that I'm going to play here in a second. Click the cards in the top right. If you don't see the cards, don't worry about that. All you need to do is go down to the description below and click the link there. And I got some awesome secrets with you to get this arm structure looking really good so you get tons of effortless speed. This is the best way to get the most out of your swing with the least amount of effort. Let's go and get started. All right, so let's jump right in to one of my favorite videos I've ever done on lag, one of the ones I've seen the best results with. And we'll talk in a minute why this is called pirate ship, but it's really a play on a wide, narrow, wide drill, or a wide, narrow throw drill that I've done in the past and have tons of success with. So if in the backswing, my club head kind of at parallel to the ground was, say, a good 5, 6, maybe even 7 feet away from the center of my body, and the downswing it's much closer to my body. That's the narrowing part because I have this big angle of lag. And then I throw all that out in front, really let those arms extend, and I go wide again. Now, a lot of times, I'll see players misinterpret this drill, and they take a really good drill that's having tons of success, and they do it the wrong way and really struggle with it, feel like a lot of hands and arms. So if you've done this drill in the past and you feel a little bit out of sequence, you feel like your hands and arms just aren't working right, I bet this is exactly what you did. So when you're going wide in the backswing, that's all good. Most people get that correct. You really got to rotate the body. But when they narrow, the misrepresentation that a lot of players will have is they'll narrow up the arms, not the club head that we want to narrow, but they'll misinterpret this drill as narrowing the arms, and they'll do something like this. I want you to think of your arms as a pirate ship. Here's what I mean by that. You've probably been to an amusement park before where they have one of these big giant pirate ships. Everybody's packed on there in these seats. And then the pirate ship is down at the bottom. There's a big arm, and then that arm starts swinging back and forth just like a pendulum, right? And the ship goes back and forth. Well, the cool thing about this, so you can relate to your golf swing,